notifying people that are in the historic district, or.
Mr. Chair, our technical difficulties are taken care of. The floor is yours.
Awesome. So I think my watch says 7:33, so we'll call the Wednesday, May 24th, 2023 meeting of the City of Huntington Woods Historic District Commission to order. Hank, I'm just going to run right into the application, right?
That's correct. Because it's a special meeting, we'll have no other additional business, so we only have the.
I like that. So today we've got the Pitco application at 26656 York. I see the applicants here.
Yes.
So the floor is yours. So go ahead and present
you.
your proposal.
Hello, my name is Brian Pitko. This is Ponce. We are proposing to put French doors in our sunroom, to take out 2 replacement windows that are 5 feet wide and replace them with 5-foot French doors.
So, Mr. Chair, at this point, what would probably be appropriate, if it's okay with them, would be is that I'll go ahead and I'll explain what I have here. And then if they wanted to add anything to that, they certainly could do so.
I'm fine with that. Go right ahead,
Thank
Hank.
you. So basically what we have is we're looking to replace windows with doors. The headers will not change. So the window opening size will be respected. It's just that it's going to be to doors. So this is a view that's up here right now of the rear of the house. So when you take a look at the headers that you have here, which are these areas up and through here and here, they go to king studs and cripples or jack studs on the sides of that, and that's the basic construction of that. So they're going to pop this window out, they're going to remove the area here, and then it'll go out to the, and then to the floor, and then they'll just pop doors in. So, and this side over here is the same as this is. So the process was is that I wanted to show you exactly how these things set up. So a couple things here that you should notice is that one, the windows are clearly not original to the house, and this is an addition. So, and how I know that is that there's 2 things that I did find because I couldn't find the original plans, but I did find a survey from 1975, and I can show you this right here too so that you can all see it. I think.
Well, I know Steve got his glasses, but that would be appreciated.
Okay, hold on just a second here. Okay. Okay, so if you can see here, you'll see that this is an exterior porch. So this was done in 1975. So in 1975, that room didn't exist. So I can show that that's not existing from there. So, and as now as 2023, it doesn't hit the 50 years that would be a requirement, even if you wanted to consider it historic. So there's less than 50 years there. So that's something that's important to take note of on that. So we can establish that, and then, hold on a second here, and let me pop this other one back up. So this is again what we're looking at. So the house is a contributing resource in the Hill District, and you can take a look, and there's no access to the yard. So from the back of their house, they have no way to get there unless they walk out the side of their house. So with the house situated the way that it is, and they have their terrace in the backyard, and they have their outdoor lifestyle that they might have in the backyard, this would be a way to get it through there, because right now everything has to come around the side of the house, so the convenience factor would be astronomical for them to have this. And then if you take a look at this, the standards that are applied to specific rehabilitation objects or projects in a reasonable manner, taking into consideration economic and technical feasibility. So standard 1 is a property shall be used for its historic purpose or be placed in a new use that requires minimal change to the defining characteristics of the building, site, environment. Well, the use is still the same. It's still a single-family residence. 2, the historic character of the property shall be retained and preserved. The removal of historic materials or alteration of the features and spaces that characterize the property shall be avoided. It's unclear that the addition is historic, even if you were at the 50-year mark. So the materials and stuff is just typically standard construction, and there's nothing that's specialized with it, and it's not like a highly articulated project that you could point to and say that there's historic value in those. Three, each property shall be recognized as a physical record of its time, place, and use. Changes that create a false sense of historical development, such as adding conjectural features or architectural elements from other buildings, shall not be undertaken. That's not what they're doing here. They're taking out windows that weren't part of the original structure, and they're putting in doors that aren't part of the original structure, but they are respecting the opening size. So that's not gonna change. 4, most properties change over time. Those changes that have acquired historic significance in their own right shall be retained and preserved. That part, it doesn't qualify for the 50 years, so that's really not gonna be an issue on this. And then 5, distinctive features, finishes, and construction techniques or examples of craftsmanship that characterize the property shall be preserved. This is just typical frame construction. This is nothing that's spectacular, out of the ordinary, and doesn't represent any type of architectural feat or anything like that. This is the same type of framing on the back of that would be in my garage. You know, it's just a very standard framing. 6, deteriorated historic features shall be repaired rather than replaced. This isn't the case here. This isn't anything that would apply at all. And then 7, chemical or physical treatment such as sandblasting cause damage to historic materials should not be used. This again wouldn't apply. That's not what they're doing. And then significant archaeological resources affected by a project shall be protected and preserved. If such resources might be disturbed, mitigation measures shall be undertaken. They're not expanding the footprint, so it's unlikely that they're going to unearth a T-Rex or anything like that in the backyard there, so that wouldn't really apply. And then 9, which would be new additions, exterior alterations, or related new construction shall not destroy historic materials that characterize the property. This is an exterior alteration, and the material is different than the existing house. The doorways would also be a distinguishing material. It could be said that the existing windows they were replacing were different as well. So you're swapping one thing for the other, but none of it meets the 50-year criteria. And 10, new additions and adjacent or related new construction shall be undertaken in a manner that if removed in the future, the essential form and integrity of the historic property and its environment would be unimpaired. This would be true, but then they would be taking out the door and putting back in the windows. There's no upside to that at all. So having said that, I have included for you to look through the guidelines, the adopted guidelines from the city. If you have any questions from either the commission, the audience, or the applicants, I'm happy to answer them to the extent possible, as I'm sure they are. So with that, Mr. Chair, the floor is back to you.
Thanks, Hank. Joe, you want to start tonight?
I don't have any comments.
Michael?
It's a mystery to me why this is even here. I mean, it's on the back of the house. It's not part of the original house. This is a no-brainer to me.
Jeffrey?
Yeah, I agree, it's uncontroversial, changing the house.
Agree. Steve?
I think this would be a perfect instance to create one of those administrative approval qualifications that would have enabled the applicants to not have to file with the fees, not have to wait, and be able to go on their own without any delays.
I would encourage you to do that.
I would second that, just because the addition was not historic. That I think this could have been an excellent case for administrative review, Hank. So let's, at some point in time, figure out why we can't make that happen.
You can. It takes a vote of the commission in order for me to do that as administrative approval. We revise the administrative approvals before as we come across things like that. The goal here would be is that nothing's really changing. They could have bushes in front of those windows. You wouldn't know if it was a window or a door anyway.
Correct.
So having said that, the only thing is that we do have some public here tonight, but other than that, I've got nothing further to add. But if you did want to do that, I'd be happy to write that up and bring it back at the next meeting.
We'll talk about that, because again, if it's an alteration to a non-historic piece, obviously the detailing, all of that is not what made this a contributing resource.
No.
I think we could find some way to make it more reasonable, and we trust you and make that administrative. So, thank you. At this point in time, I do see some public here, so if you would like to speak on behalf of this applicant, or if you have anything to say, no, all set, okay. then I will just, at this point in time, there's really nothing to respond. So I'm just going to close the discussion with the public, and
Could have sent the whole thing sideways.
I did. And what do we, I'm entertaining a motion on this one, so
Motion to approve as presented?
can we have a second?
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstentions? Passes. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Hank, I know this is a specialty meeting, so you do have public participation.
Yeah.
There's no public participation.
You
We're all
can-
set?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's up to them.
Okay. Okay, we're good, so I'm going to close that. Is there anything anybody else wants to talk about before we depart?
Yes,
I knew you had something, so you guys are all set.
yeah, you don't have to
Need to
stick,
hang
you don't have to
around
stick
for us.
around.
The only thing that you need to do now is apply for a building permit. You
Okay.
guys are good to go.
So we're good to go?
Yeah.
just
Thank
need
you.
to- need to do
Thank
a
you.
building permit application.
All right, thank you.
Congratulations.
Yeah. Good luck. I went through the, we had those training sessions, and I participated in the second one. The first one seemed to me redundant in terms of things I'd done before.
It typically is, yeah.
And in the second session, in the course of the conversation, a really interesting observation came up. Somebody from the state said, and this concerns knowing when properties in the historic district change hands so that we can be proactive and let people know that they've purchased a historic property. Because this has been the case in the past, where sometimes people will buy a house in the historic district, they start making changes, they don't realize in the historic district, and then all of a sudden they've got this problem on their hands in terms of getting a review. And so we're trying to think about how can we be a little bit more proactive in terms of either letting people know or reminding people, just doing that as a kind of public service. And so in that context, somebody from the state said that one of the things that we could do is work with DTE to have DTE notify us anytime a property changes hands. Because they know when people terminate their electrical service or change the billing on their service that there's likely, properties changing hands. So I thought before even mentioning this to you, I'd call DTE to find out what the story is, what's the mechanism. And it turns out it's through something they call their landlord service. And so it's structured so that people who own multi-unit buildings, essentially, I think this is where it starts, or, properties in which there's many units, that they're notified that a property is changing hands so that they aren't saddled with the electrical bill, or that they can kind of keep an eye on that. And it struck me as being a little complicated, but the person who spoke with the DTE said that's the way they do it. What happens is that the, quote, landlord just sends them a list, meaning DTE, a list of all of the properties they want to have monitored, and then they flag those properties so that anytime anything changes, then you as the, quote, landlord are notified, and then in the case of a property changing hands, and the city could just send them a letter and say, oh, by the way, welcome to Huntington Woods and welcome to the historic district. And these are things you should know. So, have you heard this before?
I've heard of that or programs similar to that. The problem with it is I'm intimately familiar with like landlord programs because my family has some properties. The issue with that becomes, one, if they change the tenant, the property is still there. If it's a rental, it doesn't tell you that. So you get a new name on a bill, but it doesn't tell you it's rental property, what it's not, and the landlord isn't involved in that. Two, we wouldn't be the landlord, so I'm not convinced we would have a legal right to know when people's billings change. So I would have to run that by our legal team in order to make sure of that. Because that's private information that I don't know that we're entitled to. Not that we can't ask the question. And the third thing with that is that I think we're probably better served by asking we have a communications person for the city now, who does a nice job with some things. Right now he's working on the Juneteenth program. But I will tell you that he could be probably utilize in a way that could probably get us a generic letter, and not even so generic, but a pointed letter to the historic district residents out, explaining the pros and, you know, the benefits of this. And also what I'm trying to talk to him a little bit about is gonna be the, tax program, the, you know, the tax incentives. So, having said that, that's probably where I think we're better off with that. The DTE, along with the other criteria that I mentioned that could be problematic, not saying it is, but could be problematic, would possibly be the way to go. I mean, I just, to ask for people's transfers, properties, we see some of them anyway. So like, you know, you get a PTA or a PRE, your property transfer affidavit or your principal residence exemption. We get those. We don't always get them timely, and sometimes they go to the county rather than here, so sometimes we don't see them. But we do get to see a few of those every now and then, and that's it. The other thing that we do too is like, if we see a for sale sign, although in Huntington Woods that's rare because houses sell in a matter of like, it seems minutes in here, that would be another way we could track it. I don't know, without speaking with our legal counsel, I couldn't say that that's a program that we're entitled to have that information.
Could, is there anything that could be recorded with the county, and in, any type of, title insurance that you might get, it might come up as like in some sort of encumbrance or some
It
sort of?
already is. When we made the historic districts, encumbered on the title, it was a document that says this is in a historic district. These properties are historic, and that's on file right now at Oakland County. And that was done, the way, when we did that back then, that was with the, Historic District Commission. Wasn't so much a part of that as was the legal team.
So does that ever come out to, the attention of the policy's purchaser? I mean, is it?
If their title company does the work, yeah, should. Whether it does or not, I can't speak to that. But it should, it's there. And actually, I think it's denoted in the ordinance too, the historic district's ordinance as well. We'll get something together and we'll have a mailer go out, but it'll, whenever Francesco has time to do that.
I think that'd be great, just to keep people informed, especially
Yeah,
now that the tax incentives are back.
yep,
It should put a more positive spin on the district because there is an ability to help people with
yes.
the renovation, historic renovations. So that'd be great.
It's a good thing. The other thing that, not to segue into something else, but the Rackham Golf Course Historic District marker, the state historic marker, is in. So we were going to try to do something for Juneteenth, but that's just way too busy. So we're going to see when we can get some people from Detroit together, our own city commission, and there will be a dedication ceremony coming down the line, which you folks will all certainly be invited to, along with the past Historic District Commission study committee members that have put some time into that one too. So, other than that, Mr. Chair, I don't have anything else.
Well, I've got, unless anyone opposes, I've got 7:51 and we can adjourn this meeting.
All right.
No opposition, I like that. Thanks,
So take that, it's a yay from everybody.
that's a yay from everybody, right?